Welcome back. Swing with King here, episode 3. Last week, we went over the importance of valuing money and why, even though we're in a bull run, why people end up broke. And the first week, we went over 401k, how to go to HR, change your funds so you have you have the access to all the funds offered, which makes a huge difference rather than going with the standard fund that might yield 4 6%. You can look at ones maybe 15 17% or even beyond that. But that was in the first video. And this week, this video is for people that want to get ahead, and I'm going to go over the exact steps I use to be from a full-time employee to a stock investor. And basically, what you want to do is, probably people don't want to hear this, but it's through a budget. You get a good budget sheet that you like, and then you just write down your expenses and whatnot. And my backstory is I come from a family with my grandfather, and he was brought up in the Great Depression. So I know we have it rough. We have our own obstacles and things that get in our way with AI and technology, but back then everything was a struggle. Just getting food in your belly was a struggle. And he would tell me about how he really had to sell papers on the corner and just to get a nickel to afford a loaf of bread and things like that. So he came really good with budgeting and saving money, and thankfully that was all passed on to me, so this becomes second nature. But I know a lot of people have trouble with this, and I'm here to help, through budget sheets and whatnot. And I'm actually developing a budget sheet right now that will have AI implemented, and I'll go ahead and on the fly give you a rating score and also let you know what things can be approved. And the easiest way to make a buck in any circumstance is to save money. That has to be the easiest way to earn a dollar, is to save a dollar. And I'll help you do that, and for instance, just instead of going out one night, stay home and cook, and those type of savings can earn a lot. And then I can show you later on how to invest the savings. But anyways, you need a budget and figure that out. And if it seems overwhelming, just put it on a to-do list. Go by, 1 week at a time. And my whole journey started at Barnes and Noble. Like every Saturday, I made it a habit to go out and read a book, buy a book, read a book, understand it. And my favorite books were Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Multiple Streams of Income. Warren Buffett had a book on how to understand the stock market, and his wife wrote it for him. But those three books were mind blowing to me. And the whole thing that started it was a friend at work. He showed me the 401k concept, where he was literally, getting 35-40% return, and I was getting 6% at the same company in the same universe of funds. So once my eyes were open to that idea and that concept, then I started thinking in the back of my mind, it is possible to break away from your job. It is possible to start your own wealth where you don't have to rely on being an employee for the rest of your life. And that's the concept that you really want to take home today, is that you can do other things. And I'm not saying it's overnight at all. I mean, I was a full-time employee for 20 years and I love my job. The thing that happened to me is I got to live at home with my parents for a while. We worked out a deal, some room and board, fraction of rent. And even with that said, like 5-6 years into it, I wasn't getting ahead. The structure of a job just made it so financially I didn't, I felt like I would have reached certain milestones and certain goals way ahead of time, or quicker than I was. And I was making above average income, and I worked above average hours. So it didn't add up. So then I started reading books and got curious about how things work, and I started learning. And like I mentioned, it's not an overnight thing, But you just take one step at a time, and 20 years later, then things did line up. And I don't want to hate on jobs at all. I love my job. My bosses knew that I love my job. I worked with customers, and they loved working with me. And I had a real passion and drive for it. It's just the way the system works. If you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, they go into the different tax brackets and the leverage and the things that work against you. And when I was young, my dad and I were at a science museum, and there was this demonstration on how pulleys work. And the more pulleys you add, it made your work get easier. And he said, "Look at son, like this rock that was like 5 pounds, like, and you turn a handle, and if you added more pulleys, then that rock became so much easier." And the same is true with 401k. It's a pull. If you look at it as a pulley, it can help you um, retire and early, or not need a job at all. And it's just, first of all, it's budgeting, and then after that, then you get good at finding out what dollars you can invest, your safety net. You find out what's called like a financial number. That's a number you're making now at your job, so you have to have your stock wealth or your different multiple streams of income offset what you need for your job income, and essentially then you're financially free. And next week we'll actually go into my financial number, what that looked like, my budget sheet, what that looks like. And like I said, I was fortunate enough to be brought up in a family that taught saving and taught different techniques and things like that. So I want to go ahead at this time and share all that with you. And like I said, I'm developing a budget sheet and other things to help my audience become more knowledgeable about what's out there for you, what tools you can take advantage of. I had a really fun time creating this video. I hope you found it useful, and we'll just make this a video series, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a great day.